Hi, I'm Jennifer Branch. Last week we sketched out a gorgeous Venice Palazzo. This week we're going to paint it. I'm painting the palazzo in actually a lot less detail than I drew it in. But if you don't have those details drawn fairly accurately, you won't know where to put things. I'm using rough press paper because of all the cool textures and everything going on with the Venice old stucco, and the scroll brush just glides over and staggers around the rough press paper, and I get hit and miss strokes like crazy. That's exactly what I want for the high texture, and there's some intense color in there. I start with my normal wash of the nickel azo yellow, and then I just start putting in burnt sienna, adding a couple of the darks and everything, because it really does have a golden glow even though it's a white building. So I'm doing very warm to start, and then the blues will look very dramatic against that warm background. I love the cobalt violet for these deep shadows. It's a very subtle color sometimes, very warm, very subtle. Cobalt teal is anything but subtle. But I want the bright reflections from the canal on the underside of the balcony and in the shadows where it just glimmers in the sunlight. So very warm shadows. Never paint shadows all the same color. Look at them. They are not all the same color. Some are, and don't go with the formula like, oh, they're always warmer at the edges. They're always warmer at the, it depends. It really depends on what the shadow is on and what's around it and reflecting on it. All these things. In the light, is it sunset? Is it midday? All these things will affect your shadow color. So there is no one shadow color. Of course, this has quite a few because it's the centerpiece of the painting. It's the arch and the deep shadow under the balcony that really makes this painting stand out. So just let your brush dance. You want a couple strong darks. This is overall a fairly subtle painting, but I do need the deep darks. The painting took about 2.5 hours to paint, and I've cropped it down for YouTube, but about 2.5 hours, and it took about an hour to draw. So 3.5 hours for painting, if that helps with the timing. Take your time. Let your brush dance around. Put on many layers. I usually have a fan blowing to dry it in between layers. I think this one was 3 layers, where I let it dry completely in between the layer. Hit and miss strokes on all these wonderful moldings. You want them to squiggle, and some of them are worn with age, and little dashes here and there where there might be a little gap in it. All kinds of things on, 1,000-year-old moldings. I guess this is a couple hundred years, but still. You want some age in there. You don't want it perfect. We're not looking for, shiny plastic. We're looking for old stucco that's been through it. Really look at the shadows as you paint them. That's the key of this one. Rough strokes, hit and miss, look at the shadows. You want some really strong shadows making the balusters show up. If they're not deep and dark, but they still have to be, this isn't the focal point. You don't want the darkest dark and the whitest white of the painting right there. So pay attention to it. I know from the start, I'm planning on pulling out some of the whites from the balusters, and I'm also planning on using some white gouache. So the whites moldings will all be a combination of that treatment, so I don't have to worry, oh, I don't have to paint around every single one or anything like that. I'm going to want some of the subtlety, translucency of the pulled out paint, and I'm also going to want some of the bright gouache on the surface look. So know what you're doing going into it. I want the door to have that cobalt teal just glows, and I want it to have that really glowing background. So it's going to be a very deep, dark door, but still nice glowing underneath. You know, maybe they painted it bright blue sometime in the past, or maybe but it's really glowing, rich color. You can't quite tell whether, is it blue, is it green? It's that in-between dark color that you see on all really old doors there. And I don't think that patina can be achieved except for layers and layers of paint. The same sort of color, but a little bit brighter on the shutters because they're more sun. That's in a deep archway. Bright sunlight. Very hit and miss. I don't want a lot of detail. It's tempting to draw every shutter. I mean, they're there, so you want to draw them. But if you draw every single one, you're going to pull attention away. So let them blur and just have enough to say, hey, these are folding shutters. That's all you want. Any more than that is distracting. Pulling out between, doing the dark shadows in between the balusters. And notice most of the deep darks are going to be at the center of the painting because that's where the focus of this one is that deep archway and that area of the painting. So that's where I want more of the shadow contrast to be. Just let your brush dance. Nickel Azo Yellow is terrific for that glowing look. And it dries a lot lighter than you put it on. Keep that in mind. Really let your brush move on these squiggly lines. You need to pay attention to either side of the brush stroke too in water. Does it go to a point? Does it kind of curve down? Does it curve up? All that's going to tell you something about what kind of water it is. A little texture in that moss. Now I'm deepening those shadows, only where I'm interested in deepening them, not everywhere. This is the focus. A little bright reflection on that ceiling. I want that to be pretty dark though, but the ironwork is black, so it can't be too dark or the ironwork isn't going to show up. So it's a glowing dark. It's not as stark. Now trying to get the richness of those deep greeny blues on the door. Something like this that has very high gloss paint on it. You want to draw the high gloss paint. You leave some of the whites, and also gloss on paint usually is a little chalky, so you're going to want to put some of the lights in gouache. Nice phthalo blue. I use some of the same phthalo in a few of the shutters. You need to make sure if you use it in one area of a painting, always use it in a couple others. I just skimmed over the shutters a little bit. Now this is tricky because I want the shadow to really show up on the door, but the door is also very dark. So showing that, keep in mind where you're going. When you're using a deep dark on a heavily sized paper that's painted, just some clean water will pull out a lot of what you're wanting to pull out. And I want the ironwork to have, it'll be black, but I want it to have those deep darks and the shiny lights. So the best way to do that is to pull it out. I'm also pulling out the lantern. Isn't that a wonderful lantern? Just massive. So clean water, blot it. A couple layers of that. And then paint some of the dinky little details. This is the center of the painting. This is where the dinky little details belong. A little bit of work on the statues. They don't show up very much in the shadow, but they're there. So I want them to be kind of amorphous blobs, blurs, not blobs, blurs. Nothing too detailed on it. Now I do go back and pull out a few of the highlights with gouache, as I was saying. But this is that glow of the lantern where it really reflects on the glass. It has to be done with the same color that's behind it, and that makes it tricky. So you pull out the color and maybe add a little bit back, and that gives you that glow. Thanks for joining me on this painting. I love painting Venice, as you know. There's something about the light, it just reflects everywhere. The next painting in the drawing series will be at the Bulbuli Gardens in Florence, and I hope you enjoy that. That'll be in a couple weeks. I'll post information on my website, and I am really looking forward to doing this drawing series with you. I've been planning it a long time, and I think it's a lot of fun. So for more information, please go to my website, paintingwatercolor.com. If you like the video, please subscribe, and happy painting!